Welcome to Spotlight on Middlesex County, where we share the latest news on events, services, and programs throughout the county. Today, we've taken a trip to Perth Amboy waterfront to visit the 19th and newest park in our county park system, Thomas Mundy Peterson Park, opening at the end of September. The park overlooks the Arthur Kill with views of Staten Island and Great Beds Lighthouse in the Raritan Bay, a landmark of Middlesex County. Joining us here in the park today is Rick Lear, the Director of Parks and Recreation for Middlesex County. He'll tell us all about the construction of the park, its amenities, and why this site was chosen. We will also speak with Mark Nonestied from the Middlesex County Office of Arts and History. Mark will tell us all about Thomas Mundy Peterson, the gentleman for whom the park is named. Middlesex County is rich in history and ways to explore that history, so later in the episode we'll visit East Jersey Old Town Village. There we'll get another great history lesson from Mark and hear from the reenactors who help bring our county's history to life. I'd like to welcome my first guest, Middlesex County Director of Parks and Recreation, Rick Lear. So Rick, explain to our viewers a little bit about this beautiful new park. It's such a great spot. Can you tell me a little bit or explain to our viewers about the process that we got to build this park?
Right. As you can imagine, something like this does not happen overnight. It takes planning, it takes careful consideration, and if we look at the birth of this project, we got to go all the way back to 2013. And at that point, the city of Perth Amboy had updated what we call their recreation element of their master plan. And not to anyone's surprise, there was a deficit of recreational opportunities for the residents of the city of Perth Amboy. And that was the catalyst for us to begin to start looking at that at our planning office to look at those things. And simultaneously, we were also talking to our VOTEC school, which is right across the street from our location here. They also, with the increased student interest in sports and extracurricular activities, they were also having some growing pains with finding fields and recreational amenities as well. So those two items coming together really forced us to take a hard look at what was available here in the city of Perth Amboy, a city where the county had yet to actually have a park or a recreational facility. And suddenly it became clear to us that we could indeed pull together properties and build what the city so desperately needed. So we jumped in, we did our due diligence on an additional 1 acre of property, closed on that in late 2016, and by that time the ball was already rolling. We had commissioned design work for the park in 2016. We're able to jump in quickly with phase 1 of construction in 2018, phase 2 of construction awarded in 2019, and even despite all the hardships with COVID that we've all experienced, that contractor has pushed through, and here we are 2021, looking towards our official grand opening in September of this year, of 2021.
I remember getting the phone call from the superintendent of our vocational schools saying, can we try to help them out in finding property for the students to get engaged in more sports, because it was just a problem for them. Mm-hmm. And again, and as you explained, the different phases that we had to go through, and like you said, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders involved, and it's a great project. Maybe you can explain to our viewers about the amenities that we have here at this park.
Sure. So the park, offers two different types of artificial turf fields. So number one, up towards High Street, we have what we call the multi-use field. So you can play football or soccer. Either one is up there, and that's going to get a lot of use. There's certainly throughout Middlesex County, there's a lot of interest and growth of soccer programs. Down kind of lower, closer to the water, is our ball field. And the nice part is that ball field is a combination baseball, softball, and Little League. So you can play all three sports on the one field. So the bases, we know softball and Little League baselines are shorter. So you can pick up the bases out of baseball, you move them forward, you put them in the new plugs. It's got a portable mound. So when you want to do baseball, you need a pitcher's mound, bring the mound out, set it up, use that. When you want to do softball, Little League, mound comes up, whoop, off the field, and you're set up for softball and Little League. So that's a great amenity there, just the ability to service multi-age levels and multi-sports in one field. Certainly, if you're not a sports person, there's plenty of other opportunities. We have continued this walkway, this wonderful walkway along the Arthur Kill. Great views of Staten Island, of the Great Beds Lighthouse, down into Raritan Bay. There's a comfort station for folks, plenty of parking, and down towards the end of the park, we preserved what I think is going to be a really great green space. So again, you come to a city, any city, you know, that the areas that provide just a green, natural space can be limited. So we built into the park here an open play area. People can sit, read a book, watch a ball game. Kids can play. There's space to run, and I think it'll be a really wonderful addition right here along the waterfront.
Rick, even though the park is still not completed, but we still will be ready and completed for our grand opening come September. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can explain what work is still being done or being completed.
Right. So we are here. We're in the kind of the final stages of completion of possibly one of the biggest undertakings, which is the sheet pile wall. So literally, because the property exists on a downhill, effectively, let's call it, you know, the land slopes towards the river, we've had to do a lot of earthwork, a lot of moving that to really refashion the park and reshape it into something that was, in 2014 when we came here, there were actually 3 levels. You started at High Street, went down 1, 2, and then 3 before you hit the river. I mean, it was a very complicated, we like to call it topographically challenged site, but through all the earthwork, they were able to move that, and sheet pile wall along the river ties it all together, all right? It keeps everything both safe from the land side as well as whatever might come at us from the water side. So that sheet pile wall has been finished, been tied together. They're now filling in the areas. We're gonna topsoil and seed. We're gonna finish the sidewalks, the site lighting. We put a final coat of paving on the parking lot, get some stripes in there, and before you know it, we're gonna be up and ready, eager to take visitors, to have people come down to walk, to sit, to take in the views, to play ball. It's gonna be a wonderful experience, and we're right on track for our opening here in September.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound redundant, but there's so many players involved in a project like this, and obviously so much money involved in a project like this. Mm-hmm. But Rick, I want to thank you for joining me here today at our Perth Amboy Park here. It's our 19th park in the county.
Yep.
And look forward to having the ribbon cutting and opening it up, because, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of residents, whether they be kids or adults, they're anxious, I'm sure, to get here and just enjoy the view. And I can't thank you enough for being a partner in overseeing this project as well. And again, thank you for joining me. And you know, I think you'll agree that this is a beautiful park.
Absolutely, and there is an excitement, right, within the community, within the city, to get us to that point and opening this and making it available to the residents. There really is. And it's not only does this provide great recreational opportunities, it's also a catalyst for this area. You take a former industrial site, you transform it to something beautiful, wonderful that people want to be, and you're going to see that's going to have an outward effect to the properties
Absolutely.
around this. So we serve as a catalyst, and you know, it wasn't easy, without a doubt, but you know what, that's the hallmark of this commissioner board, right? We don't back down. We see it, whether it's transforming an industrial site to a park, whether it's ending homelessness for veterans, whether it's COVID-19, we don't back down. We plow ahead, we figure it out, we get the job done, and it's really, really a remarkable addition to our park system, and we are just as excited as everybody else.
Yeah, it's teamwork.
It is.
Thank you again.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Now to share a little background on who Thomas Mundy Peterson was and why we chose to honor him by naming this park after him is Mark Nonestied. Mark is the division head for the Middlesex County Office of Arts and History. Mark, welcome back to Spotlight. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Director Rios.
Mark, Thomas Mundy Peterson was a Perth Amboy resident who left an important mark on the city, history, and the history of our nation. What can you tell our viewers about him?
Sure, certainly. And yes, he certainly left a lasting mark that echoes nationally. Thomas Peterson was born in 1824. Originally, he was born in what's now Metuchen area. His father was also named Thomas. His mother was named Lucy. And his mother was originally enslaved. She was freed in 1822. So Peterson was born in 1824, and the family moves to Perth Amboy in 1828. And Peterson, as he grows up, he takes on a variety of different handyman jobs around the city, including taking care of lawns, digging trenches for sewers. He works on boats between New York and Perth Amboy, transporting cargo and helping, as a laborer there. And of course, one of the main reasons why we know so much about him is the historic vote that took place here on March 31st, 1870, over 150 years ago.
And the vote that Thomas Mundy Peterson cast in 1870 was just the start of his life of civic engagement, correct?
Right, yes. In fact, immediately after the vote was about whether or not the charter of Perth Amboy should be revised. So it was either casting for a revision or not. And Peterson cast for he was basically handed two tickets upon entering City Hall, one for a revision and one for not. He voted, as did the majority, to revise the charter. And he was placed on the committee to help with that revision because it needed a state legislative act in order to take place. So he immediately, after the vote, he's part of the community, part of civic engagement, and it's something that he continues for his life.
And he ran for office a few times.
Correct? Yep, absolutely. He's involved with a number of endeavors throughout the city. He runs for office at one point. But it really speaks to how important he took that civic act.
And after he was in fact the first African American to vote in the United States after the adoption of the 15th Amendment, he received a medal.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you ask a great question here because how do we know he was the first? This vote is cast in March 31st of 1870. And it's not until some 14 years later that he's given this medal by the citizens of Perth Amboy, recognizing this act. And part of it came about because other folks were beginning to make claims about being the first. There was a gentleman near Princeton who had also received a medal. So there was a committee, a bipartisan committee that Peterson helped organize that included witnesses to that historic act. And they went about researching and trying to determine if, in fact, he was. And through their research, we know that right after the amendment was passed, the very next day, there was this election, this vote in Perth Amboy. And, he, in fact, became the first African-American to vote under the 15th Amendment. And so the citizens recognized that in 1884 by giving him a gold medal with a bust of Abraham Lincoln on one side and on the reverse side, words to the effect that he was in fact this first person, and he wore that proudly. One of the only images we have of Peterson, you can see him wearing that medal in the photograph.
And Mark, maybe you can explain to our viewers, where is the medal now?
Right. So he wore that medal from 1884. He died Peterson died at the age of 79 in 1904. And he wore it proudly for many years. Towards the end of his life, he he had, as an older person who couldn't work, there were some financial issues. The medal sort of left his possession. It was saved by a man named John Gregory, who found it at a place in New York City, and he purchased it back. And the medal ended up in the collection of Xavier University of Louisiana, and they still have it today. In fact, it is at the end of September, will be on display as part of the African American Museum of History, as part of the Smithsonian Institute.
It's really intriguing to see how after he was, all African Americans were given the right to vote, and he was the first one to vote. It's intriguing to know, or interesting to note, that how he got so involved civically, and he took it serious, and even running for office, and especially in those times.
Right.
I mean, I would assume that African Americans had to be fearful of the way they were going to be treated if they ran for office, and he didn't let that stop him.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think one of the great legacies here too is that his act cast a spotlight on his life, and so we know not just about him, but also African Americans in the county. I mean, this county is incredibly diverse, and we have many stories here to tell. And the ability to talk about African Americans and what they were doing in this county, we can see that through that lens of his life. So that's an important legacy too that he leaves behind.
We have so many in Middlesex County that are famous.
Mm-hmm.
So many African Americans that are famous right here in Middlesex County, and that's something that we're very proud of, to be able to have that. As a historian, why do you believe it's important that famous people to honor famous people, important people, by naming structures or places and after them, as we've chosen to name the first county park in Perth Amboy?
Right. Yeah. And I think this is great because the county is part of a legacy that's been going on here, honoring Peterson for the past 150 something years. As we said, in 1884, over 100 years ago, the citizens gave him a medal to honor this vote. And I should also mention, his mother, Lucy, was in attendance for that ceremony in 1884. And to think she was born an enslaved person, she gained her freedom, she watched her son grow up to become a part of this historic vote, and to see him being honored in 1884 and to be a part of that. I mean, from a mother's perspective, that must have been immense.
Of course.
But so, here we have a movement of the people to recognize what he did. When Peterson died, the family was too poor to purchase a marker for him. So he actually laid in an unmarked grave for many years. And in 1959, again, the people got a marker to mark his grave. In 1998, the New Jersey State Legislature passed a resolution naming March 31st Thomas Peterson Day in New Jersey. So again, it's this act of the people coming together to honor them. To honor him, and that's exactly what the county's doing. Is that continuum of history, that recognition of this important event, but also more importantly, showing the people who live in these communities that connectivity to our past. And I think that's very important to ground us in what's happened here. It makes our communities a much more richer place to live.
Yes, so true, so true. Well, Mark, thank you for joining us today and letting our viewers see how much knowledge you have in many historic things that are here in Middlesex County, especially now today, about Thomas Mundy Peterson. And again, I thank you for sharing all of your knowledge about Thomas Mundy Peterson. And we look forward to having that ribbon cutting in September.
Thank you.
Next up, join me as we visit East Jersey Old Town Village. But first, take a look at what's happening around Middlesex County.
The Middlesex County Food Organization and Outreach Distribution Services, better known as McFoods, has a new name. Now called Replenish, the organization will continue to carry out the same mission it has been committed to since McFoods was formed in 1994. The collection and distribution of food and basic necessities to a network of more than 140 partner organizations throughout Middlesex County. Those partner organizations then distribute the food and supplies directly to people in need. The new name also comes with a new tagline, Replenish, Nourishing Neighbors. The new brand identity better aligns with the organization's overall mission. And while it was previously under the purview of the Middlesex County Improvement Authority, Replenish now operates within the Department of Community Services within the county organization. In other exciting news, Replenish is celebrating Hunger Action Month in September by hosting a series of food drives to collect donations from the community. Replenish will collect non-perishable foods at multiple events throughout the county during the month of September. For a complete list, please visit feedingmiddlesexcounty.org. If you would like to help but can't make it out to any of the events, monetary donations are always accepted in the form of a check payable to Feeding Middlesex County. Check should be mailed to P.O. Box 781, Edison, New Jersey, 08818. Or you can donate online via the Replenish website at feedingmiddlesexcounty.org. In other news, the second annual New Brunswick Heart Festival took place in person this year. Held at Monument Square in downtown New Brunswick and live streamed on YouTube, the festival celebrated the vibrant arts and history of New Brunswick and Middlesex County. The event included live music, craft-making activities, and more. A recording of the festival is available for viewing on the Arts New Brunswick YouTube page. Check it out today.
Hi, I'm Mark Nonestied, a Middlesex County historian and division head with the county's Historic Sites and History Services. And we're here at East Jersey Old Town Village in Piscataway, where the past comes alive. So East Jersey Old Town Village is a collection of about 15 historic buildings that were relocated to Johnson Park in the 1970s and 80s. And they include different types of buildings. We have a tavern that was once in New Brunswick, people's homes from the surrounding area, the Runyon family home, the Pound family home, the Vanderveer family home. We have the Smalley Town Schoolhouse, an early 19th century schoolhouse. We have a blacksmith shop, a wheelwright shop. We have the Runyon Wagon House, which is an outbuilding that was on a Piscataway farm, and we have a wonderful collection of antique farm equipment in there. And also the 3 Mile Run Church. So it's a variety of different types of buildings that would have been found in communities throughout central New Jersey. So Raritan Landing was a community that was located in what is today Johnson Park. It was a port community from the 1700s that was rediscovered by archaeologists in the 1970s, and there were subsequent excavations throughout the years. And so we have a permanent exhibit in one of the buildings at the village that talks about the history of that community through all these great artifacts that have been dug out of the ground. And it really brings the community and the people that once lived there back to life through these fascinating artifacts from the Revolutionary War period, things that were in people's homes as well. And we use that again to tell that story. So we tell the county's history, and we do that through exhibits and programs, living history, and people that come to the site and they walk through the various buildings, learn about that history through those exhibits, through the artifacts that are on display. So in the tavern, we have artifacts about taverns throughout the county, as well as the building that we have that came from New Brunswick. The schoolhouse is set up to look like a schoolhouse from the early 19th century. We talk about the Revolutionary War and its impact on the county. There are a variety of exhibits in these buildings with artifacts that again tell our county's story. Yeah, so we are open Wednesday through Sunday with our living history folks here through the end of October. So when people come during our open hours, they can not only go through the buildings and see the exhibits, but they can also interact with our living history demonstrators that are here. We are layering in some programming as well. We have some events for October for Halloween. And also at the County Museum, the Cornelius Lau House, we'll be doing a open house archaeology excavation at that site. That's one of the last standing structures from the Raritan Landing community, and we're going to be doing some archaeology work there as well. So village is free of charge, and we couldn't get a better price than that. We encourage people to come out with their families. It's appropriate for all age levels, and we guarantee you'll have a good time. Incorporating technology in innovative ways is something we try and do to tell that story, that history of the county. And we've created an augmented reality tour that starts off at the village and it ends at what was the Raritan Landing archaeology site in Johnson Park. And it is a fun, interactive tour that you can do by yourself, with your family and friends. And you can really see the past brought to life through this new technology.
That's it for this episode of Spotlight on Middlesex County. Thanks again to our guests, Rick Lear, Mark Nonestied, and the historic reenactors at East Jersey Old Town Village. There's so much to see and do here in Middlesex County. I hope you'll get out there and enjoy the history, culture, and beautiful parks and scenery available. Thank you all for watching. As always, more important information about the topics we discussed on this episode can be found on our website at www.middlesexcountynj.gov. On behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, I hope that you and your family are staying safe and healthy. Please continue to follow all safety recommendations regarding COVID-19. We'll be back next month with a new episode of Spotlight on Middlesex County. See you then.